Love, that ever-flowing liquid fire of light, ever-expanding and illuminating truth, which is always revealed with wisdom, a spiritual nutrient necessary for vitality that is maintained through selflessness, a filter of ether that aids purity, which is love. Love, a limitless paper lantern floating into infinity on the intentions and actions of initiates of the mysteries.
Matt Shaffer with us. Matt, what's up, brother?
Hey, Ross. Good to see you, my friend. Everything is up, man.
That's awesome. I like that. I like that, dude. Okay, we're going to get right into it. Very first question. What are you grateful for?
Oh, my God. What am I grateful for? It's funny you asked that. That's a practice that I have not always been really good at. You know, I think a lot of us are our own worst critics. So for me, getting into the habit of daily gratitude is something that I've really been striving to do, especially in the morning, you know, especially when you're first connecting with yourself and you're in that process of waking up and, you know, tapping into your consciousness. And so, I mean, what I'm grateful for is the sum total of the life that I've created for myself. You know, like I'm grateful for both the pain of my journey and the joy of it, because I feel that a lot of times, you know, all of our experiences are there to support us. Like they're all there to serve us. So I'm grateful for my path. You know, I'm grateful that I get to devote my life to serving others and to sharing my truth and owning my voice and allowing my pain of my past to be my purpose, you know, and to support other people in their own process. I mean, it's beautiful. Like I'm so blessed to be in this life and in this reality and sharing my journey with others. So that's a huge thing. I'm also grateful for my dog. I have a little Boston Terrier that I'm pretty obsessed with. If you have any familiarity with my social media, I'm really grateful for him and all my incredible network of friends. Ascension Leadership Academy, a program I went through that transformed my life. I mean, I could go on and on, brother. But I'm grateful for really just everything that I've created for myself and that I've been blessed enough to receive from the universe.
That's awesome, dude. That's such a powerful answer. I know for me, like the more gratitude I have, the greater my life is really. It's one of those things that it exponentially makes your life better. The more grateful that things, I can't express it clearly, the more things you have to be grateful for, the more happy your life is. And the reality for me is, I have so much to be grateful for, and it far outweighs problems. It's just sometimes in my past, I would focus so much on the problems more than the one problem rather than the abundance of things to be grateful for.
I think it's human nature. I think that we're conditioned to focus on our lack, you know, because that's what drives us to consume. You know?
Absolutely. They can't sell you anything if you don't lack
stuff. If we're enough, then why do we need to buy X and Y and Z? You know, like we have to be not enough in order to need the things, to want the things to complete us. And that's the I think a lot of what's wrong culturally with our society, you know. And I mean, the further I get outside of the box and the further I unplug from the matrix, I guess if you want to call it that, like the more sort of disgusted I get with that, you know, and the more I just really, I don't want to watch the news, you know, I don't want to tap into the media. Like, I don't want to be a part of the, you know, the mind meld, the group think that I think so many people are controlled by. And it really kind of freaks me out. So yeah, being in gratitude and being present are just, it's a daily practice, you know, never perfect, but always a process.
No, I like that you said never perfect too. That's been my experience because I'm a slow learner and a quick forgetter.
Oh my God. Tell me about it,
man. What quotes do you feel most moved by, and can you explain what they mean to you?
Oh man, so many good ones. One that I come back to a lot, especially as I step more and more into leadership and more into, you know, pursuing this sort of off the grid path, is a quote from Billie Jean King that pressure is a privilege. And to me, that is just such a powerful quote, because it brings it back to gratitude, right? Like the whole concept of, oh my God, I'm stressed out, I have this pressure on me. Like, what a blessing to have pressure on you, to set expectations for yourself, to be striving and stretching and being more and doing more and creating more. Like, that's the pressure of living a positive life. It's being in a state of constructive tension. Like that's from Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. Like the concept of constructive tension means we have a purpose that's larger than ourselves, and we're constantly striving towards it. And that isn't always a comfortable place to be, but in doing that, like, we're living a purpose-driven life. So like, we're in the process of creating more, which is, I think, making good on the gifts that we've been given, divinely. So that's a good one. So pressure is a privilege. And I have to keep reminding myself of that, because I'm under so much fucking pressure that, I get to keep being like, this is it's a privilege. It's good, But so that's a good one. And another one, this is just a super random quote. There's a million quotes out there, but just ones that I come back to a lot in my own life. It's from a random Abraham Hicks Law of Attraction live workshop I was listening to in my car. And it's a quote. The quote is, "Timing is none of your business." Like, timing is none of your business. For me, that quote is like something that I come back to a lot, because like the whole context of it is, like, we have this conception of when things should happen and why they should happen. And we have these timelines built out for ourselves. And like, who the hell are we to think that through our little narrow pinhole of our perception that we can completely understand and grasp the trajectory of our journey, like, and when things are supposed to happen and when that's going to serve us best. Like, it's ridiculous for us to get mad that things don't happen on our timeline, like, to understand that, like, there is a higher order of timing occurring, and we don't know our path. We don't know the full extent of where we're going or what we're creating. We can have intentions, we can have goals, we can have, deadlines or timelines, but like, don't get hung up on the timing of the way things are happening in your life, because at the end of the day, it's none of your fucking business. Like,
yes,
there's a higher timing in place with all of our lives that we get to respect. And that keeps me from being impatient. Because for me, like, when you have a vision the size of which I do, because I'm a coach and a speaker, and I have this vision to, touch the lives of 1 million people, and to, like, travel the world and really support people and scale this out in such a huge way. Like, I have a really big, drive to do it now. Like, I want it to be happening now. And so, but I get to, continue to remind myself that, like, it's all coming in the perfect timing. And it's just about a matter of, like, being patient, being present, and really staying, because that's the other danger, I think, of getting impatient and looking too much into the future, is it continues to pull you out of the present moment. And then you lose track of, like, what's happening around you, because you're so fixated on what you want down the road. So just take the pressure off yourself with the timing aspect of life.
Wow, dude.
Right? He's speechless.
That's really rare for me to be too. Those quotes hit me right where I'm at today in life. And like, the privilege one, it makes me think of that one Incubus line. It's like, you can make a privilege feel like a chore. And it's like what we were talking about before. I'm like, dude, I feel so overwhelmed before we started recording just with how my day is scheduled. But it really is. It's a privilege. A year ago right now, I'd just be getting high, sitting on my ass, doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And now look at what you're creating. And we don't give ourselves credit for what the work we are doing and what we are creating.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're doing so many, we're servants, and we're light workers who are really doing beautiful things in service of humanity, and it's like, I think a lot of times we're way too hard on ourselves for like.
No, I agree, man. I agree completely. And then like the patience thing, dude, that has been one of the things I've been trying to teach myself so much. And it's funny because one of the things is, like, with this podcast, like, I want it to grow more with, I want to speak about my experiences. I want to write these books and stuff. And I'm trying to do so much that I'm actually missing the beauty of everything unfolding. Because like you said, like, I'm projecting so far into the future that I'm not now, and witnessing it, like what's really unfolding, like which what I have right now is perfect. And even if it never goes to what I want to be, being comfortable in the moment and being patient and seeing what develops and then being able to flow with it, that's going to give me a way better experience than plowing through it, trampling over the flowers that are blossoming at my feet in this moment.
Exactly, man. And I mean, like a big part of my own spiritual process was letting go of expectations for my life. It was like I had all these like prerequisite boxes that I needed to check in order for me to have lived a worthy life. It was like have a family, you know, get a mortgage, do all these things. And I mean, and when I went through my divine storm, what we talked about earlier, and my whole life that I had built for myself kind of collapsed. I was sitting there in the ashes of my life, and I'm like, okay, how about I just let go of all these expectations and prerequisites that I set for me to have lived a worthy life, and just accept that no matter what way my life goes, as long as I'm living it from like a present, authentic space, it's worth it. Like I don't need to have a family to have value. I would like to have a family. My intention is to have a family one day, but like if that doesn't happen, it's okay. You know, like getting rid of those ultimatums in your mind about, you know, who you are and what you have to create in order to have, you know, lived a life worth living. Like, fuck that, man. Like, don't put that pressure on yourself, or those judgments on your journey. Like just, just stay in connection and stay present, and just allow your life to sort of unfold organically and guide it with your intentions, you know, like is how I'm choosing to live my life from this point on. Even
Yeah, absolutely. You got to be like Bruce Lee says, be like water.
Yeah.
Take the form of things and just go with the flow, man.
Be in flow. And if there's one thing that's the most beautiful feeling in the world, the more further I get into this work and the further I get into my own process of personal development and spiritual development and everything else, it's that beautiful feeling of being in flow and just feeling like you're a channel, you know, and it's not even you, you know, you're just allowing it to flow through you. And it's that higher self or source or God or the universe or whatever you want to call it. You know, like there's no greater feeling than just like letting go and just getting your mind out of the way and just allowing that higher energy to become, you're a conduit for it, you know. And that's just such a cool, that my goal is to be in that state as often as possible.
I like that. That's a good goal, man. That's a very honorable one and definitely achievable. If not tricky to do all the time, but as much as possible, definitely achievable.
Yeah, just as often. That's the thing, often, and that's the thing, because setting a goal of having to be there all the time, when you say that, you're putting yourself, and you know, that's a difficult, I mean, maybe impossible thing to create, but just striving to be in it as much as you can. I think that's like a great, you know, organic intention that just keeps you in the space of wanting to, you know, be there. It's
For
much,
sure.
much healthier.
Yeah, plus you need the not flow moments to appreciate the flow moments and to like learn so you can
Yeah.
it's
You need
a
the
crazy
contrast.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Could you explain who you are and what you do?
Gosh. Okay. Well, my name is Matt Shaffer, and I'm a coach and a speaker. Really, like what I love, what my passion is tapping other people into the possibilities that they have available to them already. You know, creating belief, inspiring belief in others that they can achieve whatever it is that they want in their lives. Because for me, my own life's journey has been, as I've stepped into a belief that something is possible, I have either created it automatically or I've begun a journey that has allowed me to just step into it, you know, and it all started with belief. And so belief and possibility for me are the two foundational pieces of being able to manifest and create whatever you want in your life. And so much of that comes down to shifting your beliefs. And because we've established a lot of what, you know, is known, I'm in emotional intelligence work. So that's the work that I've been doing currently. And it's all predicated around the limiting beliefs that we've created for ourselves in our lives and in our work and in our reality. And those limiting beliefs create like a box and a lens through which we view all of our life. You know, that I'm not worthy of love, you know, financial scarcity, I'm terrible with money, you know, like my voice doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. Like, like our parents say something to us offhand when we're like say, you're walking through the kitchen and your dad looks at you while he's looking at the bill with a smirk on his face and says, son, if it wasn't for you, I'd be a millionaire right now. But he's saying it like a joke. Like, if it wasn't for having kids, I'd be a rich guy. But you take that as a direct, statement as to your worth. So then you start to hide away and play small and stop owning your voice because you don't want to impose. You don't want to, deprive anybody of the wealth or happiness that they're, worthy of. And so you take that as a truth, and that limiting belief ends up dictating your whole life. And it's like, that's like the scary part of, like what these things can do is one little offhand comment that you heard when you're 5 years old can, screw up your relationships for the next 20 years until you identify that limiting belief, which, you might not remember the event that started it, but you can identify that belief and recognize that that belief is crippling you, and then adopt a belief that's, going to serve you better. Like, I am worthy of abundance and love, and, my voice does matter. And I get to stand in my power as often as possible. And so like, that's a lot of the work that I do as a coach and speaker, is just help people identify the limiting beliefs and the different paradigms they've created for themselves, and then guide them towards, adopting beliefs and paradigms and structures in their lives that support them in growth and expansion and connecting with their authentic self, because like, as you drop your limiting beliefs and you adopt like beliefs that serve you, you're connecting to your authentic self at a deeper and deeper and deeper level. And that's been my own process, and it's still my ongoing process. And so I'm just looking to bring more people onto the path with me. And that's what I love to coach. And I also love to speak about it and do public speaking around that.
That's awesome, man. That's really where I want to be eventually. I have a lot of respect for that, and I think it's very honorable to do that. And there's so much there that I could talk about what you just said there for like hours on end.
Oh yeah, there's a million things, and just the other piece of that is the spiritual piece. Since I know this is a spiritual podcast, and like our beliefs are fundamentally, I mean, they're all energy, right? They're all energy, and they all predicate our relationship with ourselves, with our spirits, I feel. So as we correct our limiting beliefs and we really adopt like a spiritual practice, and because I mean, my spiritual awakening was a huge part of my own process, and I don't talk about that often, but like really connecting with the fact that this physical layer of reality is like just 5% or less, 1% of what actually exists, and that we're all connected as part of like a collective consciousness, like was so magical for me, because it pulled me out of thinking that this is it, because like I was thinking, if this is it, then I don't like this. Like, if this is all that there is in the world, then that's pretty depressing. But, once I recognized that, this is just like a playground and we're all part of this like divine collective entity, that just shifted my whole perspective on life and on the world, and allowed me to move forward in a much more powerful way.
No, I get that completely, man. I mean, the limiting beliefs, I definitely think are kind of like that spiritual tax or spiritual tuition again, too, where like you live with that so you can have the experience to tell people how to get out of those in lots of ways. And it's like everybody else, I had a shit ton of limiting beliefs in my life. I still have some now. And it seems like when I get rid of some, new ones come in, especially as I move forward in life. Like, it's this constant whack-a-mole of like, one goes down, one comes up. But yeah, I feel it's one of those things, like the more successful you get about redirecting them and loving that, and like looking at that and being like, it's okay to feel that way, but what's a healthier approach to this? What's going to serve me better? The more it liberates you, and the more confidence you get in yourself to handle other situations like that.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny how you say that, like that's something that I did this morning. I was doing some gratitude exercises this morning, and I was saying like, I love my anxiety, which is tough for me because my anxiety is something that's like, I'm constantly at war with my anxiety. But like this morning I was like, you know what? I love my anxiety because my anxiety is just a sign that I really do care. Like, I really do care about the work that I'm doing, about what I want to create in the world. And I love that part of me too. And it's almost like in the process of saying like, I love my anxiety, like my anxiety lost a little bit of its sting, a little bit of its power, because I wasn't meeting it with that aggressive, confrontational, like constantly trying to push it down or manage it or get it off to the side. Like, I was like, you know what? I love that part of me too. And I think that that's something that we could all do a little more of, is like take a look at those shadows within ourselves and love them too. Like love our depression, love our anxiety, love our scatterbrainness or like whatever. And then as we embrace it, like it stops being this like taboo thing that we're at war with within ourselves. Because I don't feel that being at war within yourself is ever going to serve you emotionally or spiritually. Like let's understand our darkness and then, you know, learn to build a relationship with it. And I think that'll help us a lot more in creating what we want in our lives.
No, I agree. That's been my experience. Like you got to love those broken bits of yourself back into you to fill up the cracks and holes within you. Like,
yeah.
Have you ever heard of the anime Bleach? It's a little off topic.
I've heard of it. I have not watched it.
One of the concepts in that show is that he has this like evil spirit within him, and he learns to channel that evil spirit as a force of strength to help protect his friends and push him along his journey. I love that anime because it's such a good analogy for like, or metaphor for what I've had to do in my own process, is really learn to channel that darkness and love it and just be present with it. Because the more I suppress it, the more of a hold it has over me, I guess. Because then I don't know what it's doing. I don't know what it's up to if I'm not aware of it, I guess. Befriend your dragons. Like it's something that you hear a lot in this work. Like just become conscious of your shadows and your dark stuff and befriend it, because that can sometimes be our greatest source of strength. Absolutely.
We first have to just accept it as part of who we are and embrace it, which isn't always easy to do.
Not at all. Did you feel like you were different than others as a kid?
Yeah, I was a very, I went to like public school, like, you know, not the hood public school, but I went to public school, you know, and I was the kid that was reading adult science fiction books at like 6 years old. Like I was the kid who just had his nose in a 1,000-page book, while other kids are like learning to put together, you know, like multiple compound sentences, you know, like I was just this kid who, and because I was like smart, this was the 90s, man. This was like Nirvana. Like being smart wasn't cool back when I was growing up. Like it was cool to have like torn jeans and be smoking cigarettes out, you know, behind the bleachers in recess. And all I wanted to do was read and learn. I was this like intensely creative person. And so, yeah, I had zero friends at school, you know, like zero. And so because of that, I spent most of my time reading. I mean, I had, you know, nobody, I didn't have a clique, not even like the nerds. As I was growing up through, you know, elementary and middle school. And so because of that, I just really dove into books, you know, and reading and learning and kind of like getting lost in these like beautiful fantasy worlds or reading historical fiction or whatever. And so I always had this sense that like, you know, I had this like really cool purpose that I wanted to do, and that by reading and exploring and learning that I was going to be able to tap into it someday. Like I had no idea what it was, but like I had this magical sense that there was this higher purpose that I was here to serve, and that one day I was going to figure it out. And that belief, you know, led me down some crazy wrong turns throughout my life. Not wrong turns, but you know, some false turns where I thought, oh, this must be it. And then it ended up not being it. But I was always going for that thing. Like my goal was never just to like, you know, get a job in accounting and raise a family and, you know, be done and get a 401k. I'm like, I want to create an impact in the world. I just never knew what it was going to be. And so that's kind of, I feel that I'm on that path now. And it just, you know, it took me 35 years and some crazy, you know, turns to get there, but I feel that I'm on the hunt for it now. But yeah, I always felt a little different.
That's all. I don't think I've talked to anybody on this show that hasn't like felt different. It's just cool to see, because like now I'm curious about when somebody says I felt totally like everybody else. That's going to be almost more interesting to me. I like your experience with it though, like reading and being isolated and just kind of developing yourself and feeling that higher calling. Because it's in my own journey. I was reading like Stephen King in probably second or third grade, like.
Oh yeah,
into books, dude, and I was always kind of a weird young man.
Weird is definitely the word. Like I didn't even hang out with the nerds. Like the nerds had like their table, and I like wasn't exactly one of them either. Like I'm just like, damn, if I'm not even a nerd, like what the hell am I? You know?
I get it, man. It's like the only group of friends I ever fit into with really well was in like high school.
Yep.
Because I smoked pot and I drank and like I partied. That was the connecting thread.
You were that, yeah, yeah. And I was a band, and I became a band nerd, and that was my thing. And I ended up, becoming like the lead saxophone and doing all the band gave me like a structure that I could work within and move up in, which I really love that. So yeah.
That's awesome, dude. See, that would have been a good experience for me. I tried band, but like I had such poor people skills really when I went into it. I couldn't have people telling me what to do or like anything like that. I have a lot of respect for people that could go through that though and like learn that process and learn the teamwork involved in that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the collaboration of it. That's what music is, man. Music is all about like that connection and collaboration and co-creating something beautiful. And that's why that's why when I speak, like it's highly interactive, because I don't really play much music anymore. I really want to get back into it. But in the meantime, like when I speak, it's like I feel like it's like a co-creative, like musical thing, like where I do a Facebook Live every, 7 p.m. on Monday Pacific time, where like it's a dynamic, like I'm not just delivering content, like I co-create the content with the people that are watching. Like if I'm doing a public speaking gig, like I'm interacting with the people, and in that interaction is where so much of the content comes from. And that's like what I love to do. And I feel like that's like music, it's like a bunch of people and everybody's got their own voice and their own sort of melody, and let's bring it all together and make something beautiful. And I think that can happen in music and just in conversation or in sex or in anything else, like it's all co-creative if you allow it to be.
Absolutely. That was one of my experiences too. Most of my life I tried to control everything or try to like push my influence on everything. Even with doing this podcast, like I'm getting so, I don't want to say exhausted, but maybe just bored is a better word of like doing it by myself. And it's not that I don't learn stuff from myself, but I learn so much more and have such a more richer experience when I chat with other people about stuff. Like it's more entertaining for me personally to not hear myself talk all the time.
I feel you. Yeah. I produce a podcast too. And I mean, like I always enjoy it when we do that co-creative thing where we have a guest on. Cause I mean, I do a lot of work with a spiritual healer, Mas Sajadi, and he does a lot of the episodes on his own, and it's good stuff. It's great stuff. But I've heard a lot of the content many times and working for him for a couple of years. When he has guests on, he'll be saying stuff like, yeah, hey, they're providing new content, but it'll bring new stuff out of him too. It's almost like when you're in that dialogue, like it brings new stuff out of you. Like I'm saying stuff to you in this conversation that I've never said before on any of my Facebook Lives. And that's the beauty of being in this relationship, is that, you co-create stuff that's never existed before. And I think that's beautiful, to
No, I agree. Oops, sorry, man.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, it's nice to have like to bounce it off somebody, because then it'll go a different direction or something like that. And it allows so much room for growth and then development of your own ideas or like incorporation of somebody else's ideas. And it's like, when I go back and listen to this, I can't process it all and be in the moment and in the conversation really as much.
Yeah.
When I go back and listen to it though, I'm sure there's going to be things that are like going to unlock certain avenues for me that I didn't really pursue or catch within the conversation sometimes.
Oh yeah. No, and I trust me, dude. I just did a full interview series where I interviewed 40 influencers and like did this huge like online event. And I mean, when I'm in the process of the interview, I'm so like moment to moment, like connected to the questions and what's happening that like, yeah, I'm not like retaining anything. It's like I have to go back and listen to the whole thing again to really like allow it all to sink in and get the takeaways out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I totally get it.
I'm glad you do, because I felt bad. It's like I don't want you to think I'm not paying attention to you. It's like just being so present that like you get it, so I don't have to explain it, but it is like the amount of presence that can be tricky, I think.
Yeah, I totally get it.
So this is kind of playing off the last question somewhat. When did you first notice you were different, and like what specific instance, if you can think of one?
Man. Oh, I mean, just the way that I never felt social pressure for me, the pressure to conform to what everybody else was doing was never enough of a motivator to get me to totally just bend in with what everybody else was doing. Like everybody else wanted to, no one thought reading was cool. everybody just wanted to, you know, listen to grunge and you know, smoke cigarettes and just be skaters. And you know, I mean, and there was a part of me that wanted to dabble in that stuff, but like at the end of the day, like I had such a bigger fascination for, you know, like exploring like other worlds and really delving deeper and deeper and deeper into these like crazy historical books and learning about the past and learning about different historical figures and just like my imagination had grown so much that like the thought of just like skateboarding all day and being kind of a delinquent, even though that was cool, and those were like the guys that got the girls like in middle school, you know, like we're the deadbeats and the guys that were just, you know, punks, like that to me, like there was a little bit of a seduction to it because, you know, I was in middle school, I was, you know, coming into puberty or whatever, but it wasn't enough to have me sacrifice the things that I loved. And I think that's a system that a belief structure and a behavior pattern that continued throughout my life. Like I saw people throughout law school, you know, just were like, okay, well, I've become a lawyer. This is who I am. This is what I get to do, even though I hate it. And for me, like I tried it for 3 years and then I'm like, oh, I hate this. And instead of being like, you know what, I committed to this, I'm just going to stick through it, even though I hate it. I said, you know what, no, I'm not going to conform to that. I'm going to draw a line in the sand and just walk away from 7 years and $140,000 education. I'm just going to walk and have faith that there's something out there that's more in alignment with who I am, which there was. And it's you know, and it was a process, but just like nothing terrifies me more than the prospect of like a half-lived life or a life where I've settled for good enough and never really tapped into the true extent of my potential and what I'm here to do. So that would be, I think, like, that's the pattern. And it started very young for me.
That's awesome, man. That's so powerful to hear that. There's a lot in there that I really like too. I'm going to have to go back to that. I might have to, if it works for you sometime, have you on again and delve into more of this at some point.
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
Awesome, dude. I would really appreciate that. Do you have any odd experiences you were willing to discuss?
My whole friggin' life's been a series of odd experiences. Odd experiences. Oh my God. I mean, yeah, dude, I've had a million of them. I mean, this one thing I guess I could talk about, since this is, you know, like the Spiritual Phoenix podcast, is just about my spiritual awakening, which I don't talk about very much in other interviews because they're usually very, you know, pragmatic, emotional intelligence interviews. So I mean, my spiritual awakening happened very sort of random. Even nothing's random, but it was very cosmic. Like I'm sitting in my desk doing property management, hating my life, you know, just like fuck my life, you know, like what am I doing? This is so. And this old Chinese woman came into my office and she sat down at my desk and we started talking. And we quickly developed a really powerful connection, you know, and she was like, oh, she seemed really cool. And she was like, seemed kind of mystical or whatever. And she's like, we need to work together, but first there's somebody that you need to meet. His name is Moss. And I'm just like, okay, you know, and she's like, yeah. And I'm like, who is he? And she's like, he's a powerful, you know, he's an energy healer. He's very powerful. You need to meet him. And I'm just like, I had no idea what an energy healer was. I had no idea what any of this was, you know? And I'm just like, what the hell? It's a Friday night. I got no plans. Let's just see what happens. You know, I had no expectations. She picks me up. We drive to Laguna Beach, some mansion, and we go into this room. Everybody's paid like $1,000 to be there. And I was there for free because I was basically like a volunteer. Like I was like handing out appetizers and bottles of water to people. And this guy, there's a standing meditation. I got invited to join it. I'm standing in the middle of this circle, you know, it's like and it was like a closed eye process. Everybody has their eyes closed. They're all standing up. And I kind of like look through like the corner of my eye, and this guy, he's walking around the room and he's putting his hands on people just gently on their back and on their shoulder. And as he's touching people are just melting, like just like melting into his hands. And I like kind of freaked out a little bit because I've never seen anything like that, you know, and I had no idea what he was doing, or I had no context to understand it. And then, so he's coming towards me and I'm like, oh shit, you know, like I got a little nervous because I'm just like, what the hell is going on? Like what's happening? And so I finally, he gets around to me and he puts his hand on the small of my back, and I feel this like electric tingle go up the back of my spine to the back of my head. and then my eyes are closed and I see this spinning counterclockwise vortex like in the middle of my forehead. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on? And then all of a sudden my entire body was like immersed in this like invisible like energy light, and my skin starts tingling like crazy. And then he takes his hands off me, and the feeling got 10 times more intense. And I'm like, oh my God, this isn't him. This isn't his energy. This is my energy. And I felt like I had tapped directly back into the collective energy that we all are. Like I tapped into source, like, and I was just feeling it just course through my body. And I'm like, holy shit, like life will never be the same after that experience. And it hasn't been, you know, like I ran to the bathroom after that moment, and my pupils had dilated like to pinpoints, you know, and I'm just like, what is this? Is fucking crazy, you know, like I had never had any sort of experience like that. And I mean, and over the course of the 3 months that followed, like I asked him afterwards, like, what did you do? And he's like, well, Matt, think of me like a plumber. Like you build up these clogs, these energy distortions in your energy. All I do is I see them, I remove them, and allow your energy to flow through you clearly again. And I'm just like, holy crap, this is incredible. And over the course of the 3 months that followed, you know, I had a divine storm. Basically my entire life completely, I don't want to say fell apart, but my entire life, which was, I had built it all on a faulty foundation of distorted energy, it all imploded like a demolished building. Like I had a near-death experience within 2 weeks of having that experience with Moss. I had a near-death experience where I got rear-ended by some guy going 100 miles an hour, walked with my dog in the car, walked away without a scratch. Wow. Miracle. And then after that, I saved 2 people's lives in 2 separate situations, completely independent of each other, within the next 2 weeks after that. Then I filed for bankruptcy, shut down my restaurant, got kicked out of my house, and got fired from my job. All within over the span of like less than 3 months, you know? And it just was like this unbelievable, massive shift in my life. And it was the beginning of this entirely new path for me that I'm now following and, you know, and working at every day. And so, yeah, sometimes you never know, like the smallest little instance, the smallest little decision, the most casual question can change the entire direction of your life if you're present enough and open enough to receive it and explore it. And so that's something that I'm conscious of every day. Like I don't take any situation or any choice that I have for granted, because you never know the impact it can have on your life or the impact it can have on the life of somebody else.
Wow. That is one hell of a powerful, odd experience. And it sounds like it was all predicated just by saying yes to something that you might not normally say yes to.
Being open. I mean, who just randomly goes to Laguna Beach with like an old Chinese woman that you met that day? You know, like that's something where a lot of people would have been like, nah, man, I'm going to sit at home and, you know, have a couple beers and watch a movie or, you know, do whatever. But I'm like, you know what? I'm down for an adventure. And I think that attitude of always being down for an adventure, always being like, even if this is a disaster, it's going to be a great story. Mm-hmm. That's the way I've always tried to look at, like when I throw myself into an unpredictable situation or whatever, I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. Even if this is a train wreck, it's going to be an awesome story. And I love having great stories to tell. So there's always value in it, but just go for it and see what happens.
That's awesome, man. That definitely is a heavy experience, I would say. Before I get into this next question, I had you tune in on some tarot cards. You want me to draw it now for you?
Let's do the tarot. Absolutely.
Okay. So this is your card.
The sun. Wow. So tell me.
What symbol sticks out to you the most?
That symbol on the card?
Yeah, on the card.
On the card, I mean, I would say like the sun itself. The naked baby on the horse is definitely very interesting. Mm-hmm. But just the sun looking down onto everything and sharing its light onto everything is the most compelling part of the card. To me,
that's definitely like obviously like radiance, light, positive things occurring. My dog just came up to say hello. Come up, Rookie. Sorry. Mm. Come on, Rookie, jump up. Come on.
Oh wow,
Rookie, say hello.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I always bring Bosco. Come here. Come here, Bosco. I always bring my dog onto shows too. Yeah, yeah,
She was
great.
sleeping on the couch and now she wanted to come up.
Yeah.
I don't remember all the different things, so I'm going to read you like the abbreviated definition of this. I'll send you the actual full definition after the episode, after we're done chatting. Material happiness, fortunate marriage, contentment.
There you go. I'll take it.
Yeah, it's actually like the best, if not one of the best cards in all of tarot.
Perfect. Well, it all worked out, you know. We did all the things. We cut the deck a bunch of times, split it off a bunch of times, and it all ended up working out, you know.
Yeah, that stuff fascinates me. I always feel bad though, like when somebody gets like a horrible card, I'm just like,
Death or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, it's like death. It is one of those cards where you're like, oh no, but it really is more of like that spiritual death rebirth thing. It's just like shit's gonna get a lot more uncomfortable before it gets better.
Yeah, I've had enough of that, you know. I mean,
Right.
I've had enough spiritual deaths and divine storms. I'm ready to be in the constructive sun phase of my life.
Yeah. Hopefully that plays out for you. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna give you one more card just to see what else comes up.
Okay.
And then we'll move forward.
The Empress. Wow, that's another powerful one, isn't it?
Yeah, major arcana. What sticks out to you the most on this?
The staff that she's kind of the staff, and then the heart with the little male with like the prince symbol.
Okay.
Down in the bottom.
So the staff is kind of like that connection to divinity. And if you notice again, it's that yellowness. So that's that light. Yellow is also like a color of creativity. So it's like that powerful creativity, light creativity. And then with the heart, with like the male symbol or the prince symbol, it's just getting comfortable with yourself. And for me, the way that relates to me personally is getting comfortable talking to other guys. I've never really been one where I had a lot of guy friends. I'd get high with people and go chase chicks, but like actually having guy friends and relating on like a deep level or talking about deep stuff, not something that I've really done a lot of, because most guys want to just talk about sports or stuff that I don't give a shit about, and they don't want to hear about the shit that I say because they don't give a shit about it and they think it's stupid. So
you just need to connect with some people that are, you know, in alignment with your vibration, brother.
I agree. I live in Youngstown, Ohio, and I'm not going to say that it's impossible, but I'll say that it's probably a lot less rare than other areas that I've lived in. But I'll get there. And the actual definition of it is, hold on, let me pull that up for you. Fruitfulness, initiative, action, long days, clandestine, the unknown, difficulty, doubt, ignorance. So
interesting.
They're not necessarily all going to be represented. Do you mind if I pause this for 1 second? My dog needs to go out, I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
There we go. All right. Thanks for letting me take that quick break. My dog appreciates it.
I know how they get, man. Trust me. I got mine right here, and he likes to go outside.
He's so awesome looking. I like Boston Terriers because they kind of remind me of like pugs.
Yeah, they're cousins, you know. They're cousins to the pugs, and they're just really sweet dogs. I got a very sweet one, so I got lucky.
Dogs have such a different personalities. Like, I enjoy their company so much.
Oh my God. Don't even get me started, brother. A whole separate interview.
Yeah, right?
My obsession with my dog is a whole separate thing.
I can relate to that. What superpowers do you possess, or what superpowers would you want?
Well, as far as superpowers that I have, I mean, the ones that I love the most about myself, one is my ability to really connect and empathize with other people, like to express myself in a way that it lands with people in a powerful way. That's something that I really cherish about myself, is that my communication is able to land with people in a deep way, you know? And so I'm able to get people to see deeply and feel deeply what it is that I'm trying to get across, you know, and that helps shift them. So that's something that I'm really grateful for as far as the gifts that I have. And my sense of humor, like I love to just make people laugh. And, you know, when I'm in the zone, I do it a lot. So I really cherish. And then as far as like my own like superpowers, like if we're talking like metaphysically, I feel that I have like a claircognizance. Like I don't like, you know, I don't like see things. Like I'm not clairvoyant in the sense that like I'm seeing things or clairvisual or whatever. But I feel that I'm claircognizant in the sense that like I get thoughts, and I really feel that I hear, you know, my higher self when I'm really dropped in. Like I get that guidance in the form of thoughts from a higher source. And so that's been something that has been a recurring pattern throughout my awakening and throughout my own journey, has been the process of, you know, like listening to my intuition and tapping into it at deeper levels and trusting in it, trusting in the guidance of it. Okay, boss, we're gonna push you down. So that's, I would say, if I had like a metaphysical kind of like superpower in a way, that would be the thing, you know, is really being able to hear my intuition clearly when I choose to quiet my mind down enough to hear it. It's not always successful, but that would be it. And as far as superpowers that I would want, I want to fly, baby. Flying.
Oh, yeah.
If we're talking about superpowers, like legit superpowers, like being able to fly, I don't want to learn how, I don't want to see the future. Screw that. That's not something that I'm even remotely interested in. I want to be able to fly. And that would be the one.
I can see that being a good one, man. I like how you said about like kind of getting thoughts in advance and then having those situations play out. Like one of the things in my personal experience that I encountered was this thought of, in order to do what I want to do, I had to quit smoking pot. But I'd be thinking that I'm like, yeah, I would totally give up smoking pot to like help people and talk about my experiences. Then I go get stoned.
Yeah.
Like all day. But when I got into recovery last September, shortly thereafter, I got the opportunity to speak to local police departments about experiences with mental health and addiction issues for crisis intervention training, those experiences. And it was really, really weird to me, dude, because it was like 2 weeks after I gave that up, that opportunity presents itself. And it was almost like I got some of the gifts of like long-term recovery from that kind of stuff in advance, because my higher power, higher self, whatever you want to call it, it's like, I know that you're not going to do anything unless I front you some of the rewards of this.
Yeah. That's so funny. It's so funny how when you step onto your path, like the Cosmic Devine, you know, little notes, the little signs, like, yes, you're doing it right. They just start to fall into place, you know, like you get all these indicators if you're paying attention that this is it. This is what you're supposed to be doing. It's really miraculous how it all works. And that's why they're like, timing is none of your business. Like there's a divine higher order, you know, process in place. And when you tune into it and when you step into full alignment with that flow, it's like you're in a river, man. And all your job is just to stay present within the river as you're flowing down it and just avoid the rocks, you know, stay present, avoid the rocks, and just stay with the flow. Don't try to swim against it. Don't try to get out of it. Just have faith that it's leading you to where you need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the hardest things for me right now is learning not to thrash about and go with the flow. And like one of the things that like I really firmly believe is if I can't be comfortable with the way things are now, when I get to where I want to be, I won't be comfortable then either. So if I get comfortable now, I have the greater likelihood of being comfortable with everything else and feeling worthy of it and all of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Well, being happy, you know, being happy with where you are, like, and that all goes back to gratitude, like we talked about, like really being joyful and gracious for what you have. Because I mean, I've been thinking a lot about abundance because I'm in a process. I'm in a leadership program where I get to create a workshop around abundance. And so I'm thinking about like, because I have such scarcity issues in my head that come from comparison you know, and just all these different, you know, like I wish I had, you know, more money or more this or whatever, blah, blah, blah. I have all these scarcity issues that, you know, continue to pop up in my head. It's whack-a-mole, you know, you monitor, you manage them, but they come back up, they come back up. And then I started thinking about it and I'm just like, abundance isn't about getting any one thing. Abundance is about being in joyful recognition that you like have everything already. Like you have everything, you know, and it's got nothing to do with what other people have. It's got nothing to do with money. So I think my talk is going to be like the illusion of abundance, you know, how we all have this like mythical thing in our head about what abundance is, you know, and we are always looking away from ourselves at the abundance that we wish we had. When the reality, the truth is like, we're so abundant in terms of like, you know, who we are and what we've created in our life, and everything's within us already and around us. But we create this fallacy of what abundance is, and then spend all of our time feeling like we're in lack of it. And then that lack just perpetuates more lack, you know? And that's why like the abundance is kind of like, it's a mirage you keep chasing, and then like not recognizing that abundance has always been right there. And so that's, I think, the overall gist of what my workshop's going to be. It's just a matter of like, how do I structure that out?
Yeah, absolutely. I like how you said the mirage thing. I've used the analogy of like happiness being on the horizon constantly. And it's something you never catch when it's on the horizon until you realize it's where you're at. And like the abundance thing, for example, like doing the stuff that I do with my podcast, website, all that stuff, it's like I felt like I needed a new computer. And there's nothing wrong with the computer I have. It works just fine. And this thought came to me: if I can't do this stuff with this computer that's capable of doing it, this other thing isn't going to make a damn bit of difference either. I'm just going to be more in debt and more lack to have this one thing that isn't going to make a difference. So if I can't make use of the tools I have to accomplish my goal, I'm not doing something right, or I'm not thinking right about it. Like,
yeah, exactly. And like, and where does that thought of, you know, I need a new computer? No, you don't need it, because you can do the work that you have to do with the computer that you have. So it's not a need, it's a want. And what's the basis of that want? What's the scarcity conversation you're having that's creating that drive to get one? Is it because you're bored with your old computer? You know, is it what ego conversation are you having that's you know, leading to this impulse to want a new computer for a reason that isn't essential? It's not an essential thing. So yeah, it's
for
an
me,
interesting.
it was like not gratitude. It was ungratitude, not appreciative of it, and just being like, well, this one isn't good enough for me. I need something. And it's like, dude, people would be happy to have this computer. Like, a lot of people don't even have computers or internet or the stuff that I'm completely ungrateful for. Like, sometimes.
Exactly. Like, we just take it all for granted, you know? And I mean, like, we already have enough. Like, abundance is ever present. It's us that we're just tuning it out. And so that's my whole, that's the crux of where I get to go in my own life. And I say this not because I'm completely self-actualized and I live it every moment of every day, but because I recognize that that's where I get to go in my own process, you know, and that's the process that I'm in right now and what I'm sharing with other people. So I think it's everything.
I respect that completely. I think that that's one of the most truest ways to approach this kind of stuff with metaphysical things, spiritual things, anything, is to identify the fact that none of us are perfect with it, because then it makes it so much more accessible for people just starting out on the journey. Because if I perceive myself as somebody that has like light shooting out of every orifice on my body, and like I'll meditate 24 hours a day, like all this crap, A, it's a lie. And then B, it becomes so impossible for anybody to achieve it. Like, even for me, the concept of enlightenment, when I started this, like, I thought enlightenment was a static state. And I'm becoming more and more and more convinced that it's just that flash, bright flash, and then back to like, what the hell is that? Like,
yeah. Enlightenment's a process, man. It's like transformation. Like I'm in transformational work. Like that's what I'm doing. And people think, oh, I'm transformed. You're never transformed. You're always transforming and evolving. You know, it's like evolution doesn't stop. Transformation doesn't stop. Enlightenment doesn't stop. It's not a static state. It's an ever ongoing process. And so like having the humility to recognize that you're you're just in a process. You might be a little further along than someone who just started their process, but that doesn't mean that they're any less or you're any more or whatever. We're all just beings in this ever, expanding process, and we get to help each other along the way. And that's like what I've committed myself to doing. And I don't speak to this stuff I don't speak to these concepts like a reverend or on high, or, I'm not sermonizing to people. I'm a student of this work, and I'm a student of spirituality, and a student of leadership, and a student of emotional intelligence. And so all I'm doing is just every day, trying to be a little better than I was the day before, and share the things I'm learning with other people that are on the path with me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like my goal always, is to stay humble about it and just be like, I'm just working it every day and sharing what I'm learning with other people that are journeyers as well.
Hell yeah, man. The strength is in the student position for sure. That's where all the power is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to keep you here all day, so I might just kind of ask you some of these questions, or I might skip over them. What would you rather do? Have me ask them and just kind of let you go through them, or just skip over some?
You can pick whichever ones, you think are best, or however you want to do it.
All right. I feel like you answered some of these. What philosophy, spirituality, or religions do you find most aligned with your understanding? And please explain them as they apply to you. Excuse me.
I don't adhere to a particular, like religious philosophy, in the sense of, I'm not like, I would say like necessarily like a Catholic or like a Christian. What I do believe is that spirituality is your personal relationship with God, and that there is no right or wrong way to do it. And I feel that all major religions have an undercurrent of truth. Like they're all just different roads leading to the same path of enlightenment and forgiveness and love for everyone, and connection to source or God or the universe or whatever you want to call it. Like I tend to characterize my faith as, my connection to source, or my connection to the universe. And I've been taught a lot of these, and I've learned, and that's the thing, like it's not a matter of faith for me, because like I've experienced physiologically my connection to source. I've had out-of-body experiences during meditation. I have had, in working with this healer, working with Masajati, and doing the work that I've done, like I have physically experienced like the presence of source, the presence of God within me and in my connection. So it's like, it doesn't have like a name or like a label, in the sense that like it doesn't fall into any one particular sect. Like I love aspects of Buddhism and of Hinduism. And, I grew up with my dad as a devotee of Self-Actualization Fellowship with Paramahansa Yogananda. And I think that's a profoundly beautiful path. And that's something that I'm probably going to explore more in my own process. Because I'm here in San Diego. I'm right next to Encinitas and to his hermitage. And, that he was a fully God realized man. And like I've witnessed and experienced other people that have that full connection to source. Like Moss is one of them, and there's a lot of people that I've met on my journey who are just profoundly connected people. But like, I don't pin it to one guy or one ideology or whatever. I just think there are different paths and different speeds to get you to that same place, so, but that's kind of my overall perspective, is that spirituality is intensely personal, and there's not one right or wrong way to do it. There's no judgment there. And that I'm just always working on my own personal connection to God, and my own personal, like living the principles of that, like living my own values and my own, living my own path, and not making my path anybody else's path. Because I don't think I don't think that that's ever the right thing to do, is try to impose your belief system or your values or your spirituality onto anybody else.
I dig that completely. Even if people practice the same religion, the way that they understand it is completely different, regardless of how it's presented to them, just because our experiences individually are always different, because we perceive reality different. Exactly,
man. 100%.
I I feel like you answered this, but I'm still going to throw it out there. What do you perceive as your life's purpose?
I feel that my life's purpose is to share and shed light into the lives of as many humans as I'm capable physically, emotionally, and spiritually of illuminating over the course of my life, through my words, through my actions, through my energy. Like, I get to be a source for change in the world through inspiring others to, believe what's possible for them, which is anything, and that starts with me. It starts with me believing that that's possible for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an ongoing process because it's a huge vision. I mean, my vision is to, touch the lives of 1 million people. And that's like the starting point of it. It's a huge vision and it's scary. And I mean, I multiple times a day, a week, a month, whatever, I go through phases where I'm like, is this really fucking possible? And then I come back to the fact where it's like, well, if I can't believe that this is possible, how am I supposed to, share that light and share that energy of possibility with other people? So I always come back to that. I come back to my vision. I come back to my beliefs. I come back to that sense of, like, if this is what I get to do, then the first person who gets to believe it is me. And so, but it all comes back to that sense that I feel like I'm here for a higher purpose. And so every day I'm communicating that with other people and working at it every day. So I feel that that's my purpose, is to be a light worker on an ever scaling out level as a coach and as a speaker and as, just like a thought leader.
That's awesome, man. That actually brought me to a question that I don't have on the list, but I feel compelled to ask. So without 1 million people, do you need to actually know, or do you just need to, do you actually need to know the number in some way, or could it be this way of the ripple effect of people that you interact with and then that rippling out too? Because you could have already technically reached 1 million people without even knowing it.
Exactly. That's the thing. Yeah. I'm not keeping count. I mean, I feel like I'm going to know it when I hit it. Like, I'm going to know it when I get there. But I know just in the last 2 years of really focusing out as much as I have, that I've touched the lives of, through the people that I've directly touched and then the people that they've touched over 1,000 people, just in the last 2 years, if not more. So, I mean, I'm already, doing that. I mean, I get, I'll do a video and it'll sometimes get 1,000, 1,500 views, 2,000 views. I mean, I'm not, getting 50,000 yet, but I know that my words and my energy and my light have reached probably tens of thousands of people, at least in some capacity. So I know that I'm on that path, and I'm not hung up on, having 1 million followers on social media or whatever. Like, that isn't the barometer. It's more just like, as long as I'm ever continuing to scale out my impact, which I am doing every month or so, I know that I'm doing the work. And that 1 million is just kind of like my conceptual bar that I've set for myself.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. I think that that's really respectable. And I hope to further my growth and reach on people as well too. But it goes back to that kind of patience, and it won't be on my time. It'll be on the time of the universe as to when that happens, if it's even supposed to for me. So if you had to describe your personal philosophy or condense your life experiences into a few words, what would it be?
Oh my Lord. These are huge questions, man. Okay. If I had to condense my life philosophy into a few words, what would it be? Holy crap.
No pressure.
No pressure. Just take the cumulative, all of your experiences and distill them down to a couple sentences. Oh man. I mean, I would say that my life philosophy is, like, if I had to really distill it down, is that life is beautiful and it's always happening for you. Like, it's always happening for you. And that as long as you stay open and stay connected and focus out and serve others, like, you'll find your way, you'll find your purpose.
Mm.
And I think that like if I were to just like distill everything, like everything I've gone through down to everything, that's it, is that it's beautiful. It's always beautiful. The joy and the pain and everything. I mean, that all of those experiences are necessary to mold us into who we are. And you never know which of those experiences are going to allow us to create the most impact, create the most benefit for others moving forward. Like you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back. So like, don't get hung up on the experiences that you're having right now. Just trust in the fact that they are happening for a valuable reason, you know, and that it will make sense eventually. and just have faith that, you know, as long as you're setting intentions and you're open and you're connected and you're being authentic with who you are, then, you know, you're going to get where you need to go, where you get to go.
Mm-hmm. I like it, man. I like it a lot. Just a couple more questions, then I'll let you get back to your day, man. Who inspires you?
Who inspires me? I mean, in my immediate life right now, my parents inspire me. My mom and my dad still together after 30 some years, you know, and it hasn't always been easy, but they have so much love for each other. And my sister, I mean, I've got a beautiful family, and you know, there's a lot of love there and a lot of understanding and a lot of support, and they have faith, and we all have like a really beautiful connection and bond. So they inspire me deeply to continue to live and love and build my own family and do all that stuff. All my friends and community at Ascension Leadership Academy really inspires me. I mean, it's an entire community built around service and focusing out and making a difference in the world. Jenna Phillips Ballard, who's her and her husband Brad created Ascension Leadership Academy. They inspire me profoundly, you know, with their commitment to focusing out and building a self-realized, transformed world, you know, one person at a time, one class at a time. We have hundreds of people that have gone through this process. And I mean, like, they are scaling out their impact on a massive level. And I was at Jenna's birthday yesterday, Jenna's birthday party. And I mean, just the love that, you know, that we heaped onto her was just so beautiful, because like, she's created such a difference in the lives of so many people. And it's so inspiring to see, because when you give out love like that, it comes back, you know, it comes back to you tenfold. And so, yeah, she inspires me in the way that, you know, her and Brad run this thing and are always selflessly focusing out, really inspires me a lot. And then, you know, there's always, and then the standard guys like Branson and Musk, and the guys that are just like tirelessly working to push along the evolution of humanity, like Elon Musk, for God's sake, you know, like, he's going to probably die in the next 10 years because of the way he's running himself, like he's burning himself out, but the impact he's making in the world and the way he's pushing forward the evolution of technology and space travel and everything else, like, my God, like, it's profound, the work that he's doing, you know. So those are just like a handful of guys. And then Moss, you know, the healer that I work for, the way he's devoted his life to, you know, supporting others and breaking through and transformation and everything. And there's a lot of different, I know a lot of spiritual healers that are doing work like that, Teresa Cameron, and there's just so many people out there that are making a difference with their own gifts and with their own genius. And I feel like as long as you're doing that and you're owning your power and owning your genius, and you're focusing out from within your zone of genius, then you're an inspiration to me, you know. So
That's awesome, man. That's one of the things I found in my own life too, is that like, I have so much respect for people that have their inspiration from people very close to them. And I find that to be like such a source of like strength and power, as much as gratitude is something. Having inspiration from the people that you directly encounter in your day-to-day life is so profound in giving you this rich quality of life. Because when I was younger, I used to have this inspiration that was all these people far out of reach that I could never really interact with on any level. And it's so dehumanizing and self-minimizing in lots of ways. But like, when your support, the bulk of your inspiration comes from people that you know on like a personal level, that's so powerful, man.
Because then it really, because then it's personal to you, you know, when
Mm-hmm.
it is people that you know, because then it's like this is possible for you too. Like be your own inspiration, you know, like that's something that I'm always cultivating within myself is like, am I inspiring to me?
Mm-hmm.
Like is who I'm showing up as today, is the work that I'm doing today, is the difference I'm making today, am I inspiring myself? Because if I'm not, then there's something gets to shift, right? Like I get to shift into a place of being inspirational, because I mean that's my work, you know, that's what I'm always trying, that's what I'm always focusing on doing, is inspiring other people through the work that I do and through the energy that I'm putting out in the world. So if I'm not doing it for myself, then how am I going to do it for other people?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got to be authentic with it for you, because if you can't do it for you, you can't do it for anybody else. Just like love. You don't love you, you can't love anybody else in any meaningful way.
Don't even get me started, brother. That's
I feel you.
I'm right
Um,
there with you.
so you can pick one or answer both of these. I'm going to do this as a two-parter. What books would you recommend to others, or what books impacted you the most? And also, could you suggest anyone you think would be willing to be on the show or share their experiences? Answer one or the other or both if you want.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the people sharing stuff. We'll talk about that off the recording.
Okay, cool.
But like as far as books that I would recommend, I mean, just a handful of books that have profoundly impacted my life. Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda is, I think, one of the most important spiritual texts of our time. And that's what I read. I mean, I read it before my own awakening, and that was the first time I really tapped into spirituality in my life. And I think it's one of the best books out there, especially for people that are new and want to explore spirituality, because it's about building a personal relationship with God. And it's Yogananda talking about his own journey and talking about his own journey to faith. Think about it. This guy's like a little 5-foot brown man from India, comes over to the United States in like 1920, like on a boat in a brown robe with a mandate to bring God consciousness and to bring Hinduist ideology to the West in a powerful way. Like, and this is in the roaring 20s. I mean, this is like one of the most closed-minded times in American history. Energy was so powerful that he was filling 20,000 seat auditoriums with his with the what he was channeling, with the God consciousness that he was bringing to the table. So like it's a magical book to hear about his journey. And you know, he's not from 2,000 years ago. This isn't like Jesus, where the writings have been funneled through, you know, thousands of years of control paradigms and different people, you know, manipulating the text to get their own motives across. This is like, this guy sat in a chair that I've seen up in Encinitas and wrote this book, and the words are completely undiluted by other people. And
Wow.
so it's so powerful. I mean, it's like having Jesus like in this century writing shit out.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only book that Steve Jobs gave at his wake. The one gift that he gave everybody that attended his wake was a iPad with Autobiography of a Yogi in it. So
That's
I mean,
awesome. I'm gonna have to check that out, man. I got this ever-growing book list, but that sounds like something I would really dig.
skip it to the top, man. It's a good one. So that's a good spiritual text. As far as personal development, I mean, the one book I recommend to everybody if they want to get into personal development is Psycho-Cybernetics, the new Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. That's like the granddaddy, the OG book before The Secret, before Law of Attraction, before anything, back in the 60s, of how to manage your mind and how to visualize what you want and create it. And it's a powerful, powerful book written in like matter-of-fact language. And it gives you lots of great exercises and tools to begin, you know, managing your mind in a powerful way and working on yourself. So that's a good one, like a general personal development book. And then if you want to like really delve into masculine and feminine and that sort of stuff, The Way of the Superior Man is a book that I recommend for people that are in relationships or want to be in relationships or whatever, because it's just such a fascinating exploration of the dynamic between masculine and feminine energy and how they relate to each other in relationship. And so this is not just for romantic relationships, any relationships. It's really important to know the way that masculine and feminine energy work together so that you can, you know, be conscious of that and adjust as needed to improve your own relationships. So those are just three, I mean, basic. And my favorite fiction book ever, Pillars of the Earth, historical fiction book. If you haven't read it, it's the greatest like historical fiction book ever made. So
Never even heard of it.
Oh my God, it's unbelievably good. So
You gave me a lot of good stuff to check out. Thank you, man. I appreciate
yeah.
that. Before I ask you this final question, I just wanted to ask you for your website, anything like that that you might want to throw out. I'll put the links in the description also.
Yeah, absolutely. My website is mattshaffer.com, MATSHAFFER.com. And I'd be happy to offer any of your listeners a like a free discovery call, half an hour call, at least half an hour, where we delve into what you want to create in your life, what's standing in your way, how to break through it. You know, I mean, by the end of the call, you'll have a blueprint for what you really want to do with your life or what you want to create and how to achieve it. And that's what I love to do. So I'd love to offer that to your listeners. You can either sign up on the website through the contact page, or just email matt@mattshaffer.com. That's MAT@mattshaffer.com, and just put that you're with the Spiritual Phoenix podcast, and we'll set up a time.
Thanks so much, Matt. I appreciate that. And hopefully some people take you up on that offer, because it sounds, from talking with you, I'm sure they could get something from it. And it's really generous of you to offer that, man.
It's no problem. And I'll put up a link for everybody to get on my email list as well. Like I send out, great content rich emails probably a couple times a week at least, with different lessons that I'm learning in my own life. So I'll put a link on the blog as well for that.
Awesome. Okay. And this is the last one. And before this, I'd like to just say thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate you being here, chatting with you. It was awesome, man.
It was a pleasure, man. I had a great time, man. I really appreciate what you're doing and the light you're putting out into the world, man. This is what being on the path is all about. So much love to you.
Well, thanks, man. Much love to you too, bro. Last question. I've asked previous guests to end the show in their own way. Do you have any words that you want to take us out with, so you can have the last word?
I would say, okay, so let's go out with a little phrase that I like to use, that we always end in my mastermind with. It's like onward and upward.
Don't believe. Don't follow. Do not consume. Do not watch. Largely what I'm talking about here is reclaiming experience. This is what's been taken from us. It's a self-advancing, self-expanding, self-defining process, and it takes no prisoners.
The real world isn't a spiritual world, it isn't a material world, it isn't an empty world, it isn't a solid world. It's simply